Anton says that he thinks that including society is a forgotten aspect of growing the hydrogen ecosystem. So do you think that there is still an educational or a perception problem facing hydrogen? And if so, how can we begin to tackle this?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It does come up a lot about how do you get people on board with hydrogen. From our experience, we have found that the vast majority of people are supportive of hydrogen as a green technology. So I give the example of our Wallsend project in the UK, which we've received planning permission for last month, and part of that was to do a community engagement exercise. Wallsend, for those of you who don't know, is a suburb of Newcastle, famous for its shipbuilding. It is quite densely populated. There are houses within a reasonable distance of the site. And actually, what we found was we had more supporters of the scheme than we had people who were worried about the safety. I think that the safety thing will always be there, but then you get people concerned about putting solar panels in fields, for example. So I think actually, my personal feeling is that there's no more or less resistance about putting hydrogen production in versus any other bit of infrastructure or renewable generation. I think the perception of it being dangerous and as this scary new world isn't actually the reality when you start to talk to people and when you start to put plans together. I think one thing that helps with that is just having it in society. If people can get on a hydrogen bus and not think anything of it, then that helps the cause. It's interesting. We're a French company, and obviously France has a big, it's big on nuclear energy generation. I have a colleague who moved over to the UK, and she said, I used to live in France between two nuclear power stations, and I never thought anything of it. I came to the UK, and I have a gas boiler in my kitchen, and I couldn't sleep the first time because I thought it was going to blow up. So it is about what you're used to. Appreciate we're not necessarily used to having hydrogen production plants in our neighbourhood, but I think it is something that once you do a little bit of engagement with, actually isn't so much of a barrier.
Thanks for that, Boris. And Lee, I'd like to open that up to you.
Boris put it really well, actually. I think it's important to know that public consultation is a really important part of any installation of a production plant. Hygen have gone through the same processes for their Bradford facility and will do for any facilities. And similar to Boris's point, the feedback on those events was all positive. I do think on the demand side, it has been a little underappreciated how important it will be to take into account societal impact. So one really good example of this is the red diesel replacement competition project that I manage. We've been speaking with tier one contractors who have to account for this in quite a detailed way in all of their construction projects. They have to consider trailer movements, any movements on the construction site. They have to consider impact on the local community, and they have to do an awful lot of community engagement. And we don't necessarily always see that when it comes to demand projects. More so on the production side, it's quite well developed, but on demand projects, less so. And I do think, again, that's an important part of it. I know the topic of the webinar is large-scale production projects, but I can't stress enough how important the demand side is.
Absolutely. And to complete this round robin, Joonas, I'd like to open that up to you.
Yeah, thanks. I think the societal impact of hydrogen is very relevant for infrastructure, especially since we're going to be, going in between the houses and in cities and municipalities and in very, well, in my case, 6 different countries as well, which means that I think also some sort of educational element is very important. So what we do, for example, in Finland is that we have held municipal discussions in terms of what does hydrogen infrastructure mean to you. We'll show, how does it look like if you build a natural gas pipeline? And then if you look at what does it look like if you build it in hydrogen, it'll be identical. So I think that is also a very important element that we let's say de-risk it from the societies in the sense that we show what does it look like, what does it mean to me, does it impact me somehow, is there a can I see it visually, does it disturb something? So for example, if we say that yes, there could be a hydrogen pipeline here across your field, but you can still farm on it, that's like a good example of a situation where you need to be very close to the society and to the public to make sure that the perception is right, and it's not unduly, emphasized that that it would be somehow not secure, transmitting hydrogen. I think hydrogen has been in a pipeline as long as there's been refineries, I believe. So, and then there's not a lot of news saying that refineries are facing hydrogen blowouts or something like this. So I think this is very important that we educate also the larger populace on a very high level, but in a sufficient level that they're not afraid about something new coming on.